It is 4/14/2025. Level Up College Football Podcast. Andy P and me, Big G, in the building, minus Sarah C. Sarah talked to us earlier, bro. She said she's going to be here back in a minute, but we're going to go ahead and run with the show tonight. We're live tonight on Fans First Sports Network. You'll be able to catch the rewind of this on the Know It Alls podcast from the video and audio standpoint. But tonight, me and Andy P doing it old school style, Gungan style, on Fans First Sports Network, wherever you get your audio podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and or Google Podcasts. Man, what's cracking, Andy? What's going on with you, bro? What's happening?
Man, it's been a minute, but there's been a lot of news in college football. I feel like one of the weirdest things about covering this sport right now is that from the national championship until about now, a lot of things happen, but it's hard to talk about anything because you know it's going to change. Guys are going in and out of the portal. Guys can go in and out of the portal again. We're going to talk about some of those biggest names here. Teams have had spring games where guys are winning jobs, guys are losing jobs, coaches are moving around later than ever these days. It just feels like everything is so unsettled. And even after we do this show, guarantee you in about a week, a lot of the things we talk about are going to have significantly changed just because of the new nature of the sport. And it does make it really interesting for me to say, I think that it makes it harder to know if a team's going to be good or not, which I do think is actually interesting. It is kind of boring to be like, well, we know that Ohio State's the best team in the country because there's no roster movement that can happen between now and when fall camp opens up. It definitely makes it more interesting, but as a fan, man, it's hard to follow sometimes.
Man, Andy, you're absolutely right with the changes in the landscape of college football. I mean, if you go back to like 2022, 2023, after COVID, right? We've seen so much change from there to now. You know, the NIL's in full effect. Now the profit sharing's in full effect. It's all the way live and jumping. It's like the wild freaking West out here in college football, man. And I think that's what our hot topic, number one issue is tonight. Andy, I'm just going to say one word. Nico. Nico is not as of yet in the transfer portal, but he is eligible to enter the transfer portal on the 16th of April, which closes on the 25th, which is the second spring window that's open. So even before we get into the details, the gist of it, I just want to get your raw reaction to Nico. What is your just like number one thing? Like, man, I don't know, man. This is unbelievable. You know?
Well, I think for me, what's been really interesting about this is that Nico was one of the first major NIL deals, period. Like he signed an NIL deal coming out of high school as part of that loaded 5-star quarterback class, which now out of the 5 stars, the only one that hasn't transferred is Arch Manning. Everybody else has moved around a bunch here. And Nico was the one that signed the long-term NIL deal at Tennessee that everybody thought was going to be the model for these guys moving forward, where you sign a long-term deal coming out of high school. But what happened, we'll talk a little bit, about some of the other names here, but Carson Beck goes to Miami and reportedly gets $8 million. We've got Duke handing out $8 million to a Tulane starter who's good, but I don't necessarily know if he's $8 million good. And now Nico is sitting here again, allegedly getting somewhere between 2.2 and 4 and going, I'm a bigger name than both of these guys, and I'm better than both of these guys. I want something closer to that 8 million ballpark rather than the, again, alleged 2.2 to 4 million that he was making this year. And it seems abundantly clear this is a case where the dad, the agent, and the coaching staff, none of them talked to each other enough. And at least in the situation where Nico thought he had more leverage than he did, and Tennessee just said, nah, man, we're done. Like, we don't want this distraction in our locker room. Go find a home somewhere else. And I mean, again, this is still all developing. We're still looking into it. There's still news happening. Like, literally, earlier today, I sent the chat hey, it looks like Nico's going to UNC report that got moved around ACC Twitter. Turns out that was debunked as just rumor and not confirmed. But now it's Pete Nakos of On3 is reporting that UNC is completely out of Nico. Like they are not offering him a deal, even if he does enter into the transfer portal. And now it's between UCLA and Tulane for his services, maybe USC. So this thing is changing a lot. And I say all this to say, I don't know if Nico wanted to leave Tennessee. I think Nico just wanted to get paid more to stay at Tennessee. And this entire situation is a giant red flag to kids to say, you need to have your camp in order. Your agent, your representatives, your people, you better all be in lockstep, because this is what happens when somebody opens their mouth out of turn. The coaching staff still has the ability to go to you and say, you're good, but we can get somebody just as good in here, and you're off the team now. And I think that, again, being at Syracuse and having the Syracuse tinted glasses, we kind of carry ourselves a little bit differently in this space. Big G, you're close to the Ohio State program. Ohio State is one of these programs that if they cut you loose, they can get somebody in the door at just as high of a quality pretty quickly here. So kind of your perspective here on this idea that maybe Nico did want to stay at Tennessee, but just his camp just handled this incredibly poorly.
Yeah, Andy, man, you hit a lot of key points, right, concerning this. And I agree with probably 99.99999% of what you're saying, right? But I just want to give our listeners a little backdrop of the story, what I know, right? I got inside information from down there in Tennessee and what's going on across the landscape of college football. So what I'm hearing is this. There was a massive coaches clinic that went on about in the last 45 days where they met with a lot of these NIL conglomerates, and they talked about how the NIL and the transfer portal piece works, right? Well, what they did at this clinic is they bracketed players, and they said, well, just random Joe Smo player enters the portal, he can get 100,000. This player enters the portal, he can get 300,000. This player enters the portal, he can get 2 million. This level player enters the portal, he can get 4, 5, 6 million. Okay. So that is where it kicked off initially, because there was multiple NC2A Power 5 coaches that attended this and athletic directors, but it was also a bunch of agents that represented the collectives and represented the talent, which is the actual player on the field. So you know how it goes, Andy. It's just like at the NFL Combine. These guys are sitting around talking about this and talking about that. And I think prematurely, Nico's camp, be it if it was his dad or his agent, got a hold of some of this information concerning, man, if you enter the portal, you could get $6, $7, $8 million, because he has a current deal of a 4-year, $2.2 million per year concerning his NIL, and which he's been paid already 3 of those years, right? So he's like, man, look, let me just try to figure out if I can work this out with the coach and all whatever else. Well, that's what stirred it up, because at the same time, Nico was trying to talk to the coach and the athletic director and the NIL collective. What a lot of folks don't know is somebody from Nico's camp contacted Eugene, Oregon, and talked to Dan Lanning. That's documented, because Dan Lanning whistle blew on Nico. For all you guys that's out there listening to us, and I'm telling you like it is. Now, it's allegedly, because we don't want to get sued, Andy, but we know the story is that Dan Lanning contacted Knoxville, Tennessee, and said, hey, look, by the way, your quarterback's trying to come out here and play for us, and he wants a bag. So that's what kicked all of this thing off, because then it went back to where Nico got confronted by the coaching staff at there, and his father got confronted. His dad went on a social media rant and talking about, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. And at the same time he was saying, no, it's not true, Nico was steadily trying to get the heck out of there, because he was getting confronted about just trying to land the bag. So at the last second, his dad and all them tried to gather up, get with the coach Heupel, get with the athletic staff down there and say, okay, hey, look, whatever, let's just make it right. Go on and just give us 4. We're only going to be here probably 1 more year anyway. Just give us $4 million and then we'll be good. And Tennessee said, adios muchachos, my friend. We don't even necessarily need you. Now, my issue with it is this, Andy, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think that the Tennessee school handled it in the best way, because I think that when it's anytime something is handled outside of the locker room or outside of the athletic complex, it's going to get messy because you're going to get three sides. You're going to get your side, their side, and the truth. And so now, you know how it goes with PR people and stuff. They leak little stuff out here, stuff out here, because they don't want people to look like, they don't want to look like the bad guy. And they damn sure don't want to get held holding the bag, look like, because they messed up or did something wrong. So now we're getting all these leaks of what Tennessee's doing, and Nico's camp's getting quiet. So I'm like, man, I know that between me and you, we've covered most of this, but what is the real gist of this? Do you really think it's the money, or, because Arch Manning is getting big bread out of Texas, bro. There's a lot of other top tier quarter. DJ Langway, I'm hearing, got excess. Hell, Aaron Nolan got paid to transfer from Ohio State to South Carolina. He got $1.2 million. So ain't no telling what they're paying Lenore Sellers, who's the starter. So do you think this is bread, development, bad coaching, bad parent? Where's the issue with this, man? What do you really think?
Yeah, I think it's I'm not going to absolve Nico completely of blame here, but all the reporting coming out of Knoxville has said that Nico has been the ideal teammate for such a young quarterback starter. One of those guys that doesn't miss meetings, doesn't miss practices, doesn't miss radio appearances. So the fact that he started doing that raised so many red flags, because it was the situation of this guy that doesn't step out on us is all of a sudden no-showing. Like, there's something terribly wrong here. And I think that you're 100% right, where Tennessee is in a situation where Heupel, this is the kind of thing that he has very publicly been frustrated with, because when you know his story, both as a player and as a coach, it's of one of loyalty. It's of one of understanding that sometimes you need to go somewhere else in order to thrive, which is what happened to him at Oklahoma, both as a player and as a coach. And he is somebody who's not opposed to the idea of transferring. He just wants it done a very particular way. And he wants there to be a level of loyalty once that move has been made. And so for Nico to handle the holdout, to handle the contract renegotiation as he did, kind of rubs Tennessee the exact wrong way, where Heupel's going to get frustrated and say things publicly when he probably shouldn't or didn't need to be saying things publicly. I think that was one where it's like, this is the wrong place and time to be doing this with this guy, because it's going to rub him the wrong way. On that front, though, I do think that the agent and the dad just got a little bit greedy here. And I think that you probably could have done this in the offseason very quietly and probably renegotiated better terms without the holdout, because there's a long time between now and August, and plenty of time to go back into the portal, plenty of time to get your name out there and find an offer that is going to offer you a higher number. And clearly, as they saw, like, they just handled it the wrong way and going after the wrong schools. Like, Dan Lanning and Oregon obviously have made it very clear that you do things on Oregon's terms. You do not reach out to Oregon and try to squeeze Oregon into money. It's probably the same way at Ohio. It's probably the same way at Ohio State. It's the same way at all these other big schools. And so when you're trying to create leverage, this is something that as an agent, you just have to know about. And I think they just handled the entire situation really poorly for Nico. And I do think that, to his detriment, it's the only program where I can see him going and fitting in immediately and having that same level of success is USC. That is the only program where they have a proven track record of taking a quarterback like Nico and saying, oh yeah, we can build an offense around you and you can succeed here. All these other schools that are even in the conversation that might have the money in order to pay Nico what he wants to make, there's still a lot of big holes and questions on them. Like I mentioned earlier, like, we're talking about UNC. I still don't know if UNC is going to be a success in year one under Belichick and that entire revamping of the offense that they're trying to do. I don't know if UCLA is in a position to protect Nico like we saw this year with Tennessee. Like, that pass protection was terrible, and Nico really struggled in order to make those big types of throws that fit him best. So I'm just sitting here going, like, this is all a net negative for Nico and what he's trying to go for. in terms of a better situation monetarily and having the same level of success on the field. I just don't think he's going to find it anywhere. And now you're looking at your agent going, man, like, if this ends up negatively impacting my career, like, you're losing me as a client before I even hit to the NFL. And so I think that's the lesson to take away from here is, like, if you really are going to wait until this window to make something happen, your agent had better be already cultivated with multiple schools instead of trying to go out and gauge interest at this point in time, because teams don't want to be looking for a quarterback right now. And I guess the flip side to all this now, Tennessee's in the market for a quarterback, and there's some names available, but I don't know if anybody's as good as Nico in terms of quarterbacks that are available at this point in time.
Andy, man, 100% big time facts going on with the story, man, with this kid. And this the thing is, Andy, there's been other programs like Colorado. Primetime put some stuff out there on the social media and was like, nah, we're good. We're straight. We're good over here, you know. And because of the way that Nico is hitting the transfer portal, let's not forget that the SEC current rules say that if you transfer in the second window of the spring portal, you are not eligible to transfer to any SEC school. So now that takes 16 right off the bat. You can't go to none of these guys because they play in the same conference as Tennessee. Now, Andy, I will say this. I think the USC's in it. I think they're in it to win it. And I'm telling you sneakily, and you know I got feet on the ground up here in Columbus, Ohio. I would not be shocked if he shows up at Ohio State University. I wouldn't be, because of the deal. Ohio State, so people don't really understand. You know, I know, because we've been doing this podcast stuff and we understand the complexities of college football for a minute. But when teams are trying to win and all eyes are on you, you got two choices. You either prepare or you repair, right? Ohio State has got a Julian Sand that looked good in the spring, but played against a vanilla defense, cover 2, cover 3 the whole spring game. They never blitzed him or anything. So you mean to tell me you're coming off of a national championship, you have a stacked roster, there's this kid who you know has done the damn thing out of Tennessee already, and you can bring him in for 1 year and run this thing back? There's no way. I've heard from so many different Ohio State fans over the last 24, 48 hours, and they're split on it. They're like, no, we're good and all whatever else. You're good until we lose. And so when you have an opportunity to bring Nico in, Ryan Day's not a fool. Ryan Day's, look, he just got the monkey off his back for the national championship, but he still ain't beat Michigan, right? So let's not get this twisted. This is a business. This is about bringing in quality talent to put yourself in position to win. And if you don't have quality talent, putting yourselves in position to win, now you're losing. And so now you're going down this repair road. So I agree with where he's got an opportunity or a shot, but I just think if it is the bread, there's no way a school like Ohio State will give him $4 million. But the development side of it is, Nico, all reality, you could come to Ohio State and win a Heisman Trophy, because you're throwing the ball to freaking Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Edis, Brandon Graham, Porter, the Klein, the tight end for Purdue. I mean, it's weapons everywhere. So you have an opportunity to put yourself in a better position for the 2025, 2026 NFL draft, is all that matters anyway. So saying all that, Andy, if you had to put a landing spot today, right now, where's Nico going to play next year in the 2025 college football season? Where Nico's going to play at, bro? Where do you think?
I think for me, the leader in the clubhouse is USC right now. I think that I was obviously talking about the potential heat on that coaching staff last season with how disappointing things have gone. And remember, look, like USC had Caleb Williams and only won eight games, I think it was, maybe 6 games with Caleb Williams.
Eight games. Like they won 8.
Yeah. That coaching staff is one of the highest paid coaching staffs in all of college football. That is a fan base with high expectations that came into the Big Ten expecting to be one of the powers and has just become another school in that conference, and has been completely usurped by Oregon as the dominant power on the West Coast with college football. And so I think that when you're looking at the desperation on both sides. Nico and his agent desperately need to make a move that show they're in control. This wasn't a panic move to leave USC. We upgraded by leaving Tennessee. USC is in a desperate situation where I don't think they love any of the quarterbacks that they have on their roster, but they struck out in the first portal in terms of really adding a true starting 5-star impact player. I just think that it's a match of desperation where if Nico wants to get $7-8 million, USC has those funds and is desperate enough to pay it. And if you're USC, this is probably your best chance to add a high quality quarterback through the portal. Otherwise, you're trying to sell a development year, and best case scenario, you develop a quarterback who leaves you next year in the portal. So it really does seem like USC to me makes the most sense based off of mutual desperation versus a Ohio State, where yes, I think they'd like to upgrade at quarterback, but they're not handing Nico the keys to the kingdom. And Nico is not the best player on Ohio State's offensive roster next year. I don't think he's the third or fourth best player on that offensive roster next year by any stretch of the imagination. And so you got to take care of the guys that are higher above him before you look at Nico and his payday.
Got it, bro. I'm feeling it. Great information. And listen, if you guys aren't watching us live now or listen to us live now, make sure you go back and listen to the rewind on the whole Nico thing, because like Andy said, this thing's got legs. So as the day goes on and it moves forward, heck, by the time we get off the air, something probably is going to happen with Nico. But we do wish his family the best. But this is the preliminary thing with this whole NIL transfer portal, Wild West mentality with college football. Somebody eventually is going to put some dang on stop to this, and they're going to put some regulations on it. But as of now, man, get your bread. Get it when you can get it, and get in when you fit in. All right, Andy, we're going to take our first commercial break. We're going to pause for the calls, get a message from our sponsors and our partners. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we'll be right back. If you're listening to us, wherever you get your audio podcasts, be it Spotify, Apple, and or Google Podcasts, we'll be right back with Fans First Sports Network, Level Up College Football Podcast. And we're back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Andy P, Big G in the building, minus Sarah C. Sarah, we with you, girl. We got you. We'll see you in a minute. We doing our thing, man. We just talked about Nico, man, and all whatever else. So we're going to do a hard pivot. We're going to talk about spring ball, Andy, because, man, look, it's a mess. They're talking about showcase games, spring games, this and that. Some coaches don't want to play spring games. We got some cowardice acts out there concerning college football and what these guys are doing. And Andy, me and you are traditionalists by far. I mean, we grew up in different eras and different times. We know the necessity of spring football to interject energy, passion, and following from the fan base, as well as the developmental aspect from the players. So I just want to get your idea. What do we really learn from spring ball? And who is really still setting the mark on how spring ball should be done from a college football standpoint?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about the spring ball practice time is that it really is an opportunity for competition to reign supreme. You're trying to figure out which position battles are going to carry itself into the fall, and which position battles from a coaching staff perspective, you go, this is making the entire unit stronger and this is making my team stronger, or which position battles do we need to address in this final transfer portal window because it's a weakness on our team and no one has really stepped up to a level that we feel comfortable is necessary for the competition that we're facing. And, you know, obviously that level of competition differs between, say, a Syracuse and an Ohio State, but that's really what's happening behind the scenes. And so I think what's been really frustrating for me has been looking at the spring game itself is usually like it's that showcase moment. It's to say to a guy, look, you've been battling all spring behind the scenes. Now here's your opportunity, much like we're going to have in the fall, where the practice matters. But if you don't do it on a game day, we're going to have to look elsewhere. It's that first real opportunity to go to a player and say, how can you get yourself right for a quote unquote game day environment? How can we simulate a game day environment in order to have a read on this player and on this position battle? And what's really happened, and we saw it at Syracuse, the starting quarterback, Richie Collins, transfer in from LSU, who really a relative unknown, came out of high school with some pedigree, sat in that Brian Kelly quarterback room that's been a bit of a mess and been really transfer heavy over the last few years. We don't really know anything about him. Only the coaching staff has seen him. Last minute sat out with a quote unquote hand injury that's not severe and not urgent and won't impact his ability to practice this spring, which is that's just code for we didn't want anybody else to see him and potentially snipe him up in the portal. That also happened with a lot of other big starters and young starters on the Syracuse roster. And we saw that across the board in college football, where a lot of programs opted to have guys sit out with either ailments or rest. And so unless you were a big school that's not really worried about those kinds of things, your spring football game was really difficult to take anything away from. And I think for me, one of the things that ended up not happening with the spring game, Colorado and Syracuse were attempting to have an inter-squad scrimmage over 3 days as part of their spring game, with the idea being we'll have multiple position battle scrimmages happen. There might not be a holistic game, but we want to do this because we think that this is the best way to measure up competition that doesn't typically get to play each other. The NCAA didn't allow it, said it was too last minute, said it was going to take away too much from the classroom environment that will, happens during the spring environment. To me, I think that that's kind of the future of where this is going, because unless you're in Ohio State, unless you're in Alabama, one of these big schools that has this institution around a spring game and will always play a spring game no matter what, these other schools are looking for ways to make it interesting, but still learn something and still make it interesting to the fans. And I think that these inter-squad ideas with another coaching staff, having mixed practices and mixed position group workouts, I think that's actually a brilliant idea and something that I would like to see happen next spring between a bunch of different programs. But obviously the NC2A has to approve all that, and they've been very reluctant to allow that kind of spring environment to take place.
Facts. And Andy, this is the thing. From a logistics standpoint, I heard that Coach Brown and Coach Sanders had it worked out. As far as guys being able to do, they were going to bring tutors and stuff over there. They had all the stuff set up where they were going to be able to do online. They had study tables that they were going to do after the practices and then do this as a series. So they was going to sit down in Colorado one year, sit up in Syracuse one year, and draw fans. But what that would have actually done is that would have drawn recruitment. Because if I got an opportunity to go and play in a spring game where I can really showcase, and it's Syracuse playing an inter-conference or whatever you want to call it battle against Colorado, and I go out there and it's my time to shine, I'm showing up. So they were ahead of the curve. And Andy, you're absolutely correct by saying this is what you're going to see in the near future, right? But I'm worried about the programs that, in my opinion, did it from a cowardice move. Right? The Michigan States, the Nebraskas, right? Nebraska has a super high profile player in Dylan Raiola, right? They knew that Raiola would be offered the bag if he looked really good in the spring. So if that's not me, a coach looking out for a player, that is even not a coach looking out for a team. That is a coach looking out for himself. Because he knows if players start transferring because the culture, the money, whatever you want to call it, in this NIL area, now they're going to lose their job. And I don't think that's right, because the only time you develop as a player is in the spring. Andy, let's face it, like I said, we've been around college football for years. There ain't no development during the season. The reps go to the ones. Every now and then the twos get in there, but the other guys don't develop. So you got to be able to play coming out of spring into the summer, and you only get your one opportunity to do the damn thing in the spring. So this is, to me, more about the coaches not doing right than the actual worried about, they're going to poach guys from me. Yeah, listen, everybody loses players to the portal. Look, Ohio State is a stacked, young, loaded roster. I promise you, when that window opens up on the 16th, dudes is walking because that's the nature of the beast now. So you can't be out there being scared and acting like, oh, they're going to lose this or lose that. Come on, man. You're not in the best interest of the players. And Andy, also the traditional blue blood programs like the Michigans, the Notre Dames, the Ohio States, the Floridas, they had spring games. Tennessee had a spring game, even without Nico. So I just want to get your reaction to say that, like, I know you think that the format is team on team, but what else do they need to do to enhance, to push this thing together to make the spring game mean something moving forward in the next college football season?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head here with the idea that there's a lot of coaches right now acting in fear of a portal that is just the new reality of the sport, and they haven't quite figured out how to navigate that part of it. When it comes to the actual, so what does this mean for a fan? What does this mean for a campus? What does this mean for an interest? I think one of the most important things to remember is that it has been now 4 months since a lot of programs have last played a football game. For some of the programs that played in an early bowl game, it's been 5 or 6 months. Like, these people are starved for football at this time of the year, and they want to go out and celebrate their team. They want to go out and show support for a coaching staff and start getting to know these newer names, these younger names that are going to be a big part of the team's success come around fall. And I think coaches just need to embrace that and start understanding that this is just as much about you introducing your team to the world as it is about evaluation and about making sure that you've got your ducks in a row here. Because, say you're in Ohio State and you've got a Jeremiah Smith last year who nobody has seen and we've only heard of, but he early enrolled. Like, this is a great time to get him out there and start showing off what he can do. And I think that for a lot of programs that are now pushing this early enrollment, that are now getting their highest recruits on campus early and often so they can participate in spring, so they can participate in the spring game, that's really important to building the momentum going into the fall. I think it's also really important that these coaches understand it doesn't always have to be a straight up scrimmage. It does not. We are not looking for a true 11 versus 11 smack it together. We're looking to try to understand and evaluate which players are going to be exciting. Have wide receivers and quarterbacks just throwing and running routes in some way, shape, or form. Have wide receiver cornerback battles. I think that there's a way to make this exciting with football activities that aren't an 11 versus an 11 game, but still give us what we want to see, which is the best players on this team moving forward. How can they show off what is going to make them so exciting and why we should be excited for them? And I think that not enough coaches are quite embracing the idea of doing different drills or doing different types of competitions. Like, man, I think a lot of fans would be happy with an Oklahoma drill right in the middle of the field. We don't need the full thing, but we'd love to see that. We'd love to see who's going to be the nastiest guy in the trenches either way. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I don't think that we've embraced enough about the spring game, because we're still so married to the idea of doing a Pro Bowl style 11v11 game with minimal contact. Like, I think we got to move out of that mentality, and we got to start looking at just showcasing these players doing the things that they do best, because that's going to make us excited for the fall. That's going to carry us over the summer. That's going to tell us the position battles that we should be paying attention to once camp opens up in August.
Man, and Andy, you're 100% correct. And I saw that literally go down here in Columbus, Ohio. In Columbus, Ohio, the spring game attendance was about 40-some thousand and some change. The spring game usually every year is around 90-some thousand. And the reason is because they labeled it a showcase. And you knew it was so controlled that it wasn't the traditional thing that you need to see. So moving forward, okay, if you don't want to do that, because really, to be honest, Andy, the only reason they did it is because the fans went off about it, right? And if you're trying to keep kids from transferring or whatever else, do something different so that way they fully can't see what they need to see. Because people going to offer money no matter if you like it or not. Listen, it is a business. The NC2A is a business. Teams are about getting to the playoff and winning championships. And so that means money talks, BS runs the marathon. And so if you got the bread, which is an unfair advantage, then you pay the player. Now, does it always work out? No. Because like I said, what's the percentage of transfer portal kids actually being successful? I think it's around 25% or less. A lot of kids transfer 2, 3, 4 times because they're trying to just get that niche and get themselves in position because they have aspirations to play at the next level. Doesn't always work out like that. So if it's going to be this way, coaches, do a better job in navigating this spring game and put yourself in position to really showcase off your program. Because I promise you, if I had a kid that was that old that was playing, I'd be like, I'm looking. Because guess what I did on Saturday? I flipped the channel. Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Tennessee. Everywhere I saw a spring game, I stopped. And I watched, X amount of time of it. And I was like, okay, yeah, that guy looks pretty good. That goes look, because I want to be showcased at all costs. So you're absolutely correct with this Syracuse Colorado thing. And I think we're going to revisit this thing in the fall once the NC2A able to get their hand around it and regulate it. All right, Andy. So I'm going to ask this question. We're switching gears. All right. It's early. Spring's in the books. It's over. There's no more practices. There's no more nothing. There's summer workout and conditioning. But the teams aren't going to get back together until late July. Right? Or late July, early August is when everybody got to be back in the building. So we got the rest of this month, May and June, 2.5 months. If you had to give your power ratings out right now of the top 5 teams for next season, based on what happened in the spring and all whatever else, give me your top 5, bro. Right now, today, give me your top 5.
Yeah, I think for me, number one, you gotta stick with the champs. You gotta look at Ohio State here. I think that they still have the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith, and I think that they showed with Will Howard last year. They do not need to have the flashiest quarterback in order to make that offense work at the highest level. And I think that that's really important for us as we evaluate Ohio State and we evaluate these teams to go, look, you do not need to have the biggest name quarterback if everything else is in place, because you can do so much with these new modern offenses that really do rely on consistency when you have all the bells and whistles on the offensive line and in the receiving core. So for me, Ohio State, they're defending champs. They have the best player. I still really like them at number 1. Number 2, kind of on that same vein, I think you got to look at Alabama. They were super inconsistent last year in Kalen DeBoer's first year. There's a quarterback battle happening down there as well. But I think we saw last year that the quarterback play at times hurt them because the quarterback play was going out of system. They also have an electric young wide receiver who is going to challenge Jeremiah Smith for the title of the best wide receiver in college football this year. And I think in year 2 of Kalen DeBoer, with a little bit more control, with a little bit more consistency, that is still one of the most stacked rosters in all of college football. If they can be consistent game in and game out, I think that is a 11-win team in the SEC, and they will be contending for the SEC title and for the national title. Number 3 for me is Penn State. I think that this is probably the most complete team in college football right now. I think that they have the best overall offense. I think they have the best overall defense. I think they have the best overall special teams. The only thing that they're missing for me is that top-end game-breaking talent. I don't think they have it at quarterback. I don't think they have it at receiver or running back. But I do think that all these positions are incredibly deep for them. So I do think it's going to be an interesting battle of styles when Ohio State and Penn State play, where Penn State might be the better overall team, but Ohio State has the better overall players. And for me, that is a matchup that we just absolutely have to watch right now. Okay. Number 4 for me, I'm going to put an ACC team in there. I think I'm going to put Miami up there right now. They won the transfer portal. I don't love Carson Beck, especially. There seems to be some off the field drama happening with Carson Beck right now that worries me going into the fall. But last year we were saying that, Miami won the offseason, but we don't know if they can put it all together. Well, guess what? Last year we saw that Miami can indeed put it all together under Cristobal, and I think that they will probably be your ACC favorites going into the season. Clemson will have something to say about it, but I think Miami will be your ACC favorites, and they should be the favorites to win the ACC conference. And so I'm going to put them in the top 5 just because we know that winning the ACC gets you into the playoff. And we know that winning the ACC puts you in a good position for the college football playoff. Finally, number 5 for me, I'm really having a hard time deciding between Notre Dame and deciding between Georgia. I don't love the Georgia quarterback room. I don't love Mike Bobo, even though I think that their roster is better than Notre Dame's. And those two things are really preventing me from putting Georgia much higher than maybe number 6 or number 7 right now. I think that they're a great team, but I'm just not sure that, like we saw it last year, Georgia was just never able to kick it into high gear unless they got out to a lead early. And so for me, I think I'm going to put Notre Dame at number 5. I trust that coaching staff. I trust what Notre Dame, they still have a really talented roster. It's still fairly young, all things considered. So I'll put Notre Dame right now above Georgia just because we've seen Notre Dame put it all together and be more consistent than Georgia was last year with the same coaching staff, and they have to switch out their quarterback. So for me, that's my top 5. I'm looking at Ohio State, I'm looking at Bama, looking at Penn State, I'm looking at Notre Dame, and I'm looking at Miami.
Man, Andy, listen, the reasons why you gave the team who they should be there 1 through 5 makes all the sense in the world. But I think we're in 2 different places. And that's okay because we're entitled to 2 different opinions because you look at the perspective of what they see. I will say this. My number 1 is going to shock you, bro. My number 1 is the University of Texas at Austin. I'm going number 1 because it's Arch, man. If Arch is what they say they are, I'm hearing all these things. They're getting C.J. Baxter back. They've loaded up this offensive line. They've loaded up this wide receiver room. They got all these 5 stars on defense, and I'm hearing more and more out of it. I'm hearing that Hill, the linebacker, is running around like a man possessed. And I'm like, okay. So we're going to give you the hype, Texas. You're number 1. You say you're number 1, live up to expectations. So I'm going to make the Texas Longhorns number 1 in my current poll. My number 2 team, Andy's probably going to shock the brake shoes off of you too. I'm going to go number 2 with Penn State University. I think that Penn State University, with the return of Drew Aller, the 2 running backs, they lose Tyler Warren, but they didn't have no receivers anyway. And I think that in the spring window, they're going to hit that portal real hard, bro. I think they're going to find 1 or 2 weapons to really help Drew Aller. And listen, I don't know if you guys know, but LeVar Arrington Jr. is over there on campus, and he looks like a grown dang man. He's a dog. And they still got number 33, who's going to wear number 11 this year. So, listen, they still got it going on over there. And the benefit is that they get a lot of those big-time opponents at the crib. Everybody but the Buckeyes, they got to go to Columbus. So they're going to circle that on the schedule early. Like, look, this is the game we proved to the nation that we're number 1. Number 3, I'm going to go with The Ohio State University. I still have questions about Julian Sayin being the quarterback at Ohio State. I think the kid's talented. I watched the spring game. I saw a lot of Bryce Young. I really did. I saw a fast kid that can move around and can spin it. He's got all-world weapons. Jeremiah Smith, Ennis, Carnell Tate, Klein, the tight end out of Purdue, Peoples running back, Bo Jackson. I mean, he's got weapons, man. All-world offensive line. But can the kid do it? Can he really do it? Because I think they reload on defense. Their defense is freaking loaded. I'm telling y'all. And under Matt Patricia, the Mad Pistler, it's going to look a little bit different over there. It ain't going to see no Jim Knowles. Man, Matt Patricia's coming after you, bro. And you already know that because they've already moved C.J. Hicks around from a defensive end position where he just go get the quarterback, So, but I got him number 3 because I got to see what Sayin looks like from the progression of the spring through the summer and to the fall. They might move up, but they possibly could move down, man. My number 4 team in the country is South Carolina University, the Gamecocks. South Carolina, man, has a kid by the name of Lenora Sellers. And I don't care. I don't know or care if any of you guys have actually seen this kid play. He is him. Lenora Sellers is different, man. This kid's got a top 10 draft pick written all over him. Now, they're losing a lot of talent to the NFL. TJ Sanders, Nick Emanuri. They're losing Rocket Sanders. But, man, they got a squad over there, bro. They got a squad. And if they're just able to have a defense show up, oh, my God, look out for South Carolina to cause a whole lot of problems in the SEC. My last team, and this is going to sound crazy too, but I just feel it, man. And maybe I'm just on the quarterbacks early. DJ Langway, man, the University of Florida Gators, man. DJ's different, y'all. This kid, if he could come out next year, he'd be a top 5 draft pick. That's how much of a talent he is at a quarterback of Florida. But what has happened over the last year and a half, 2 years, they've been sneakily reloading that cabinet. And 4 and 5 stars is going down there to play in Gainesville, right? So they got the quarterback. They got the NFL talent around him. Now can they build it? Because, Andy, remember last year we said, oh, ain't no way in hell. Florida's coach is going to get fired. They ain't going to win but 2 games. They shocked a whole lot of people by winning about 7 games and winning that bowl game. So now you're looking at the Gators like, wait a minute. The storm is over. It's time to show up and show out, man. So I think the Gator boys is on the brink. Now, I like the Notre Dames. I like the Georgias. I like LSU. There's a few other teams I like. I even like sneakily like maybe Colorado to get in my top 12 once we do the whole rankings after the spring. But, man, this season is going to be exciting, so I'm hyped about it. Last question. I mean, not last question, but just a segue off of this. Andy, who's your Heisman? Who do you got for your Heisman, bro?
I think for me, you said him. I think DJ Langway is going to be special this year. Like, there's just things that DJ Langway does on a football field that we have not seen in a very long time. Langway's not a perfect 1-for-1 comp, but there's a lot of Cam Newton that I see in him and just his ability to put a team on his back and physically dominate a game from the quarterback position that I'm very excited about. I think that we're going to be talking about that Underwood kid at Michigan in a few years in the same way. But I don't think that we can turn away from DJ Langway right now and what he's about to do at a school like Florida that when it gets rolling can really take over the imagination and the attention of the college football world.
Yeah, I like DJ Langway. I mean, I think it's a quarterback-driven thing. I would put DJ Langway up there. I'd put Arch Manning up there. I would put Nussmeier out of LSU if he can actually show up there. Lenore Sellers up there. But Jeremiah Smith might get that Heisman, man. And or maybe even Caleb Downs. Because word out of Columbus, Ohio is that Caleb Downs is going to play offense this year as well as defense. So now here's the two-way thing, the Travis Hunter thing, the pass with Charles Woodson thing all over again. A two-way player getting snaps to say, okay, build the Heisman campaign. So I think it's wide open this year, just like I think the national championship and the rankings are wide open. We're going to see stuff we've never seen before. And I look for a team to definitely get hot early and often. All right, Andy, we got one last question. This is spinning the block full circle. We know NIL is going completely wild. What does the NC2A got to do to fix this, bro? Because listen, man, I'm telling you right now, if they don't do it this season, they're in trouble. I look for disbandment of the NC2A if they don't fix this thing. And from now to this time next year, if they don't put regulations and all whatever else, disbandment is on the way. Because it's so much that's happening with this money. And really, it's NIL across the board. College basketball, the best player from South Carolina University said, I'll holler at you. Notre Dame's best player from women's basketball, I'll holler at you. You know, they're hitting the portal because they're like, look, you're going to pay me my money, what I'm worth. And I think it's just the Wild West. So instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, man, what do they got to do to fix it, bro?
Yeah, the NCAA is just in this position where they have decided to allow everything to happen. And so there's no rules because they've just decided we don't want to get involved. And we've seen now that approach not only makes it difficult for fans, but it can harm student athletes. Student athletes are not making the best decisions for their own interests. They're getting taken advantage of by family members, by agents, by predatory practices of boosters. We've got boosters that are promising money that doesn't arrive. It's all too lawless because the NCAA refuses to step in and enforce any sort of penalties on schools that facilitate either bad deals or operate in bad faith. And so I think one of the biggest changes that's going to happen this year with the House settlement that, again, still needs some federal oversight and needs some federal guidance before schools can fully move forward with it. However, the idea is that schools will have to give players a cut of revenue derived from revenue generating sports. So for 90% of schools, that is going to be college football generating most of the revenue, college basketball generating a secondary portion of revenue, and then some schools having a tertiary sport that can drive revenue. So at Syracuse, it would be lacrosse. At a school in the South, it's probably baseball or softball. And you'll see that third sport kind of vary based off of conferences and which, like Big Ten is probably gymnastics or wrestling, to be completely honest.
Facts.
So with this legitimate payment coming from the school to a player, this is the NCAA's opportunity to step in and say, now that schools are directly paying players, now that this is not just a booster handing a student athlete money for their sponsorship, name, image, and likeness, we should step in and have this be more regulated. What I think needs to happen is more transparency between the contracts. It is in everybody's best interest for a school to say, we are giving a player this amount of money, because that means that now there's no need to back channel. There's no need for an agent to go and sneak off to another school and say, how much are you paying your quarterback? Will you give my guy more? You know how much a school is willing to pay a quarterback, a wide receiver, an all-American left tackle. Once all that information is out in the open, it will allow for there to be far more transparency and less need for back channeling. Secondly, what I think needs to happen is that there needs to be firm semester level commitments for the payment of the players. If a player wants to leave in the transfer portal and give up a portion of their money, that is within their right and they can do that. But they need to know that, look, if I am going to get the full amount of payment here, I need to stay for a certain level of semesters. And the school needs to know that the NCAA will hold the player and the agent accountable if they try to challenge and get any of that extra money that is withheld because a player enters the transfer portal. Like, I think those two steps are very easy, enforceable, and obvious first steps to take. And then you see where the dominoes fall from there.
Yeah. I love the idea of the regulation concerning how the money is distributed from the NIL collective to the player. I think that is, Andy, by far, that is the best move. Because like you said, a lot of times there's a lot of promises. I mean, at one point I played college football, so I know how it works. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. We'll give you money here. We'll do that. And this is before it was all legal. So now it's legal and they can be transparent. But what seems like has happened is become more corrupt than it was before. And you can be totally transparent about what you're doing. And so I think the regulatory or regulation actions by the NC2A will put this thing to bed. But Andy, that's a slippery slope, because if you start down that fire or down that road, you might see some stuff that you didn't necessarily want to see and find out some things you just didn't want to hear about. And I think that's where the crossroads is, because let's face it, bro, these are professional athletes now. At these Power 5 schools, they are not transitional athletes. They are pros. They're pros going to class, right? And Andy, you know, I mean, you went to Syracuse. You know that the hour restraint for some of those big-time athletes, when it's the actual season, they go to class once or twice a week. They're practicing. They're getting ready for the game. They're not doing all what they're supposed to do concerning a regular student. So let's not get it twisted. These kids are not the average kid carrying around a backpack trying to pass a chemistry course. These are kids that are getting themselves ready to do the thing at the next level. So according to that, now, in my opinion, Andy, and we've been talking about this for almost a whole year, they're employees. They are employees. They are professional, paid athletes. Treat them as such. I don't know any job in America that doesn't have regulations. I don't know any job in America that doesn't have rules, especially if it's a corporation. There's regulations and rules that they have to follow which is their bystanders concerning how we operated as a business. The NC2A needs to do the same thing. Stop being scared, NC2A, and do what you need to do to put a cap on this. If not, you think Nico was bad. Oh, just wait. And Andy, I hate to brag about the Level Up College Football Podcast, but we called this mess. We just didn't know who it was going to be. We said this was going to happen, and it happened just like we said it was going to happen, man. So now moving forward, NC2A, you better get it right, because Andy P and Big G is warning you. You're in trouble. You're not going to exist. You're not going to exist. You better get some regulations on it, or it's over, bro. All right, Andy, we're to the end of the show. Final thoughts. Let people know where they can check you out concerning Fans First Sports Network, or wherever they get their audio and or video podcasts, bro.
Yeah, it's been great to get back here and chat about some college football with you, Big G. As always, you can find me on the socials and on the Substack at AC Pregler. That is my handle across the board there. We'll be picking up the sports content in the fall. Summer is usually pretty low key just because of the lack of sports we got going on. But we'll be doing this show obviously more and more, especially once we get closer to the fall. And again, it's great. It's absolutely crazy that we're here talking about all the things that we're talking about with college football, because it has been a very weird offseason with the portal, and we still got a couple more weeks to go. Portal's gonna open up, and we're still gonna see some movement. So in a few weeks, we'll probably have to hit you all up with an update just to let you know where everything's settled.
Yeah, facts, man. Listen, it's been a great show, a great opportunity to just get back in the building with my boy Andy. It feels good to sort of do it the old style, man, because we used to go back and forth about with information. And I know it's just like with Sarah, Andy does this homework, man. So, you're not just going to get no average everyday podcast information concerning sports. I work with people and work around people that do an extensive amount of homework and research concerning topics. And then we bring it, man. So wherever you get your college football podcast, Fans First, audio, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it, make sure you stop by the Level Up College Football Podcast. Now, for me, Big G, tomorrow, I'll be on Steelers Almighty doing the big show with my boy Big B. And Andy, I'm going to break it to you on air. Big B runs that Big 12 College Football Podcast Network. He wants to holler at us, man, because he thinks that we got some stuff. We can go down there and talk mess down on that Big 12 Podcast Network on their Fans First Sports Network, because they get down over there, bro. So, yeah, it's a lot going on with college football. So I'm going to be over there tomorrow. Make sure you check me out on the Know-It-Alls on Wednesday and Sunday with the Smash the Gas and with the Know-It-Alls podcast itself, and all the other things I do on Fans First Sports Network, Steel Curtain Network throughout the week. As for me, Big G, as for my boy Andy P, and as for my girl Sarah C, girl, we missed you. We'll see all you guys back in a couple weeks with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Peace.